Oh hey, and good morning. Now you might be wondering to yourself, why is Joe making a video so early in the morning? He's not even out of his pajamas yet or anything like that. Well, no, we're not making a get ready with me video. That would be incredibly boring, trust me. What? There, see? Incredibly boring. Nothing interesting about that at all. Ugh.
A whole new world, a new fantastic point of view, no one to...
Anyway, as I said, we are not here to make a get ready with me video. No, today we are here in the morning so that we can make a video all about one of America's favorite breakfast foods. Pancakes. Now, I was asked in my Q&A video, which I ended out the year 2020 with, and I will link that somewhere up here about. Someone wanted me to teach them how to make boxed pancakes. Now, generally speaking, I don't judge people who make things out of boxes or cans or anything like that. I myself have many recipes with which I use boxed and canned ingredients. In fact, I have 2 whole cookbooks in my collection completely dedicated to baking and cooking with boxed ingredients. However, that being said, I have just the teensiest bit of judgment for people who make pancakes out of a box. Now hear me out, let me explain. In my mind, in my way of thinking, I have always thought of pancakes as being something really simple to throw together from scratch. So I didn't really understand or see the purpose of knowing how to make them from the box because doing it the scratch way is just already so easy. So I put together a little bit of an experiment. Today I'm going to make 2 recipes of pancakes from the box and 1 pancake recipe from scratch. And we are going to see, are the box pancakes really that much faster? And are the scratch pancakes really all that much better? Today on The Blue Wizard Cooks. So as I mentioned, we are going to be making 3 different pancake recipes today. We are gonna make one straight out of the box. We are going to make one that is boxed pancakes, but a little bit zhuzhed up. All right, a few extra ingredients added to make them a little bit better. And we're gonna make 1 recipe from scratch. We're gonna start with the scratch recipe. Now, the recipe that I am making today is out of the book, The Joy of Cooking, which is one of my all-time favorite cookbooks. This is the newest edition of The Joy of Cooking, which I did purchase because I like to see updates and everything like that. However, my original copy of The Joy of Cooking, which I bought in college, you can see is a little bit beat up and worn and torn, and I have used it a lot. The pages are stained, there's things falling out of it, little markers and things like that, little notes that I've made falling out of it. The spine is creased, all that sort of thing, because I use it a lot. It is a great starting point if you are just looking for a basic recipe to build off of, to be creative with, to do something a little bit on your own. So I highly recommend this book, The Joy of Cooking, if you are looking to get more into cooking and baking. But anyway, enough about the book. We are going to start with the recipe, and this is the Joy of Cooking's basic recipe for pancakes. So inside of my large mixing bowl, I have 3/4 cup of flour. And by the way, I am making a half recipe of all of these because, you know, frankly, I ain't gonna eat 3 batches of pancakes by myself. Shut up. But anyway, like I said, all of these recipes are going to be halved. But the recipes that I will put up on my website, linked below, I will make sure it's a full recipe on there so you guys can make it, you know, double it or half it or whatever it is that you guys want to do from the original recipe. But anyway, inside of this large bowl, I have 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. And to that, I'm going to add some other dry ingredients. I'm going to add a 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. 1 teaspoon of baking powder, about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I'm gonna take and whisk those dry ingredients together. And this is something that I would actually do the night before. So this way it makes the process of making pancakes in the morning even faster. Just mix together the dry ingredients ahead of time. So this way all you have to do is put together the wet ingredients in the morning. That's it. So now let's move on to those wet ingredients. Inside of a large measuring cup, I am going to measure in 1/2 cup of milk, to which I am going to add 1½ tablespoons of melted butter, about 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla, and breakfast staple, an egg. So I'm gonna take my little whisk and whisk all of those together until it's smooth and the egg is evenly incorporated. There you go. So now all we have to do is take our wet ingredients and mix them into our dry ingredients. It's just that easy. Now I'm going to do this with a spatula rather than a whisk because you want to do pancakes, any kind of pancakes, whether you're making them from the box or you're making them from scratch, you want to mix them sort of lightly together and you only want them to be just mixed. You don't want the batter to be smooth. That's a mistake that I see a lot of people making with their pancakes. You do not want the batter to be smooth. You want it to be a little lumpy. Just make sure that there's no dry bits of flour. And there you go. If you can see that in the camera, our batter is still lumpy, but there are no dry bits of flour. It is ready to rock and roll. For my next batch of pancakes, I'm going to be doing sort of a half and half. It's sort of half boxed mix and half from scratch. So it's the boxed mix, but we're gonna zhuzh it up a little bit. And for my boxed pancake mix today, I'm going to be using Bisquick. Now, Bisquick is not paying me because, let's face it, I only have like 100 views per video on average, and so nobody's gonna be paying me to sell their product. But enough about my sad stories. You don't have to use Bisquick. You can use any kind of baking mix that you want. So you can just make pancakes using Bisquick. You can just take, or any baking mix, by mixing together some of the baking mix with a little bit of milk and an egg. However, you can sort of zhuzh it up a little bit and make it a little bit more fancy by adding pretty much the exact same things that we added to our from scratch pancakes. So to 1 cup of baking mix, I'm going to add another 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, teaspoon of baking powder, and whisk that together. So in our measuring cup, I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of milk, 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, and an egg. And then of course, whisk that together. And then just like before, we are going to take our dry ingredients and mix in our wet. And also, just as before, we are going to make sure that we are mixing these pancakes so that they are still a little bit lumpy. All right, we do not want them to be smooth. The lumps are going to make sure that our pancakes are not tough, and they're going to make sure that the pancakes rise and have good height to them. All right, and there you go. Our dry bits are gone, and we still have a little bit of lumpiness to our batter, which is exactly what we're looking for. Now, last but certainly not least, because that would be judging, and I'm not judging, we are going to make our completely from the box mix. I am using the brand Hungry Jack because I'm Hungry Jack. Whatever, they were the brand that I found in the Walmart. Okay? Anyway, we're using the Hungry Jack brand, but from what I saw, all of the brands of pancake mix are pretty much exactly the same in terms of their process. So inside of our bowl, I have 1 cup of the pancake mix, and I'm going to add 3/4 cup of water. And that's it. Well, except for the stirring. All right, but just like before, and it even says it in the instructions on the box, that you want to make sure that you are not over mixing the batter. And there you go. That one's done. All right, so our 3 different pancake batters are done. So now it's time for us to see how they fare through the cooking process. So I'm going to take all 3 of them into the kitchen and we're gonna see how they take to the stove. And then of course, we're going to take a taste. Now, no matter what recipe you are using for pancakes, you want to either use a nonstick skillet or a griddle pan, like what I am using here. You want to make sure that your skillet is heated to a medium to medium-low heat. Now, you can cook your pancakes in oil, but I'm actually going to use butter because my grandmother, who made the most fantastic pancakes I've ever tasted, always used butter, and so that's what I'm going to do as well. Now, you want to use about a 1/4 cup portion of batter. To measure this out, I am going to use a 2-ounce cookie scoop. Now we are going to start with our from scratch pancakes first, because that's what I'm familiar with. And I'm going to dole out the batter and spread it out evenly over the pan. And I want to cook these pancakes until I notice that the bubbles that are coming up from the surface actually sort of stay in place and they don't pop and smooth over again. That should take about 2 minutes. Once that starts to happen, then it's time to flip the pancakes over to the other side. You want to cook these for an additional minute until they are cooked all the way through. These pancakes look fantastic and they look so delicious and puffed up and perfectly formed. Oh, I love this recipe. Now it's time to move on to the zhuzhed up recipe, the sort of half and half. And I noticed right away that the batter itself for these pancakes is a lot more puffy and airy than the from scratch batter. I also noticed that off to the side, all of that air, it started to collapse and parts of my pancakes actually got a little bit flat. But once these pancakes were ready to flip and I flipped them over, they puffed right back up again. Oops, I let that one get a little bit more brown than it should have. Now these pancakes also had a nice thickness to them. They look delicious, but I also noticed that the shape to them is not as perfect as the from scratch pancakes. I don't know why that is. Moving on to our final contestant, our pancakes straight from the box. This batter was also very light and airy, and though it looked like there was more batter in the bowl than we had with all the other pancakes, there was actually less, and these pancakes turned out smaller per a quarter cup of batter. These pancakes also cooked frighteningly fast, like it took less than a minute per side for these pancakes to cook through. Once again, they had a decent thickness to them, but these were a lot smaller and they had, again, a weird shape to them. And there you have it, kids. Our 3 different batches of pancakes are all cooked and ready for tasting. Again, I noticed some differences between the different types of pancakes. I have to say, just from the cooking process alone, I have to say that I really did enjoy the from scratch a lot better than I did the other 2. The other 2 kind of made me nervous just because of how fast they cooked and because that batter was so puffy, and then as soon as I dolloped it out, it sort of like flattened out. So I was worried that they weren't gonna puff up. They did puff up, so it was okay. But they also kind of got like weird shapes to them, like this and this. But we are gonna try to taste them to see if there's really any difference between them, okay? But I will say that obviously the easiest to make was the boxed pancake mix. Obviously, because you're just mixing together 2 things, that's all you have to measure. You have to measure the mix, you have to measure the water, that's it. All the rest of them obviously involved more steps. So this one was clearly the winner when it came to ease of use. Now let's try them. And I'm gonna add a little bit of maple syrup. We're gonna start with the boxed mix this time, since we started with the scratch in the cooking process. There we go, add a little syrup, and let's take a taste. Let's get a spot where there's a decent amount of syrup. They feel a little bit tough. All right, they're good, but they're, if I'm honest, I don't know, they're a little kind of gummy to me. Like when I bite into them and like sort of start chewing them around, they have like a weird texture to them. But maybe it's just because I haven't had a pancake in a long time. Who knows? But honestly, if you served it to me, I wouldn't say no to it, okay? But like I said, it does have kind of a strange texture to it, in my opinion. But then again, it's been a long time since I've had a boxed pancake. All right, now let's move on to our zhuzhed up box. Now these, as I'm cutting through them, they feel a lot better than the box. Let's see how they taste. I have to say, they don't have that weird texture that I had in the box mix. No, I definitely wouldn't say no to these. They taste really good. I have to say, right now, this is the winner. The zhuzhed up Bisquick mix, this is really a lot better than the box. I have to say, I'm sorry, box people. If you like a box pancakes, again, no judgment your way. No, all right, no, I'm just kidding. No judgment your way. But these definitely, if you want to have a little bit more convenience to it, I would definitely use the zhuzhed up Bisquick recipe over the just plain straight boxed mix. Now it's time for the classic, the from scratch joy of cooking recipe. Ooh, yes. Best texture of all, I have to say. Very, very good. They definitely have a lot better of a texture than the box mix pancakes, even than the zhuzhed up box mix. They definitely, the texture is the winner on this one for sure. But If I have to say, if I'm being 100% honest, the flavor is different between these, the from scratch and the zhuzhed up box, but I would not say that I necessarily prefer one over the other flavor-wise. I would say, again, they taste very different. Like, you can taste the difference between them, but I wouldn't say, oh, I really like this one more than I like this one in terms of flavor. I will say, though, that texture-wise, I do like these a lot more than the other two. The texture is fantastic. It's sort of just like the pancake holds together a little bit more. It's a little bit more dense. The others, like I said, they were very light. Even the batter was very light. And so they don't really hold together. Like, I noticed when I would try to pick it up, once it has the syrup on it, that it sort of fell apart. These, they're not falling apart. All right, guys, so the final analysis. Guys, don't make the box pancake mix. Really, I understand that you guys really like the convenience, and this is nothing against this brand. I am not saying anything against the Hungry Jack Corporation. Is that even what they're called? I don't know who makes that. Oh yeah, hungryjack.com, yeah. So I'm not saying anything against them. The box pancake mix, they are not that much easier for the quality of product that you get. When you actually put a little bit, just a tiniest bit more of work, it's literally just measuring up like 3 more things, all right, than what you would do with the box mix. You definitely get a lot better of a product. Both of these, I would say the zhuzhed up box mix and the from scratch were 10 times better than using the boxed mix straight, okay? Now, when it comes down to it, if you wanna use the Bisquick box and zhuzh it up a little bit, then go for it, rock on, because actually these were a really good product. Yes, I did like these better in the end. I thought that they had a better texture and a slightly different flavor, but these were still a really good alternative. These still tasted really good. So if you really are like, man, I really like the flavor of a box pancake, but I do wanna make it a little bit better, you know, sort of quality, then I would definitely take the box mix and zhuzh it up a little bit. Well, anyway, guys, don't forget that if you liked this video and you want to see more like it, make sure to give me a like down below. Also, please don't forget that if you really want to help me out and help my channel to grow, then please make sure that you are hitting the subscribe button as well as the little bell for notifications, so this way you are notified every time that I post a new video. If you want to catch up with me and find out what else I'm doing in the world and what else I'm cooking and baking in my kitchen, then you're definitely going to want to follow me on both Facebook and Instagram at Joe the Blue Wiz. Now, of course, the idea for this video came from a viewer. This came from a question that I got during my Q&A video. If you have any ideas for future videos, make sure to drop me a comment down below. And I would love to know your opinion. Do you like the boxed mix or do you like the from scratch? Which one is best for you? Which one do you normally use? I'm so interested to find out what people actually think out there. As I mentioned earlier in the show, if you want the recipes for the scratch pancakes or the zhuzhed up Bisquick pancake mix, then make sure to check those recipes out at the links down below in the description box, or just head straight to my website, bluewizardfood.com. Well, kids, that's all that we have time for today on the Blue Wizard Cooks. I'm gonna go head back into bed and relax and enjoy the rest of my pancakes while watching some TV this delightful morning. But anyway, don't forget that you don't have to be a professional chef or even a wizard in order to make magic in your kitchen. Bye now.